It's time for your mix of movers and shakers, of doers and makers. It's time for Funko Fun Chat.
Today's guest, you may know her as the voice of Bulbasaur and Clefairy in Pokemon. Meet Tara Sands.
I am Tara Sands. I started working in voiceover a million years ago. My very first anime job was on Pokemon. I don't know if you've heard of it, but it's a pretty big franchise.
Bulbasaur, Bulbasaur. Bulbasaur!
I got lucky and was cast as some speaking roles, but then Bulbasaur was really how people got to have me in their living rooms every Saturday morning. I was an actor like so many actors in New York. I grew up in New Jersey, very close to where we are now, and I was in a local singing competition at the Y. An agent was there and said, you know what, you could do voiceovers. And I was like, I don't know what that is, but okay. And I went and it was for wart cream, Compound W wart cream. And I had to say something like, ew, gross, a wart. And I got the job, and my mom was like, what? Really? That's a job? And then I just kind of stuck with it. I do a lot of audiobooks. I just kept auditioning. I was doing theater in New York and all that stuff. And voiceovers was just really where I kind of fell in love. And I was like, I love being in the studio. So now I do animation, anime, video games, commercials, whatever they tell me to do. I work on Hunter x Hunter. I play Biscuit, and I know you guys have a new Hunter x Hunter line coming out soon, so I'm very excited to see the Biscuit pop. I miss theater and I miss working on TV, and I did a lot of that. I hosted a kids TV show for a while on Cartoon Network, and I loved that. But yeah, the voiceover thing, people say like, oh, you can work in your pajamas, and I sometimes I can. So I'm not giving that up. It's all my acting training. It's improv training, it's singing training to use your voice, and it's your acting training to understand your character. What was cool is when I first worked on anime and Pokemon and stuff, they would say to me, oh, we need, while you're here, we need you to do this. And I didn't know if I could do it. But, I was like, sure. And all of a sudden it would be a really deep voice or a really high voice. And I was so grateful for my training because I was like, they were like, can you do this old lady? And I was like, and all of a sudden I was like, you start getting a warble in the back of your throat. Or so Bulbasaur's like, Bulbasaur, but then I would be, Clefairy. And I was like, oh, I'm so glad that I understand this. And it's just, you figure out how to play. Like, I can't do like a Donald Duck voice, but there's a really specific place in their voice where all that comes from. That sounded really gross.
Well, I could, if you do like the cry,
and you do the crying stuff. I did a lot of that in JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. I played a really evil baby, Death 13 Manish boy, and he was so evil that he got fed his own poop. And I almost threw up when I was recording that. It's an acting job at the end of the day. I mean, the audiobooks especially, it's like you play every single character and you use your voice in all sorts of ways, and that's all that singing and acting training. To a point, because you have to stay on mic. So I've gotten used to working with, I can use my hands. I get used to just doing that, but I see new actors come in and they start jumping, if it's a running scene, they jump up and down, and the engineer has to say, no, you can't, that doesn't work here. You have to just do that with your upper body, and you learn, again, those little tricks. And now I work from home, so I'm not even in a studio, and I'm one of the actors who sits. Some of us sit, some of us stand. And during the pandemic, all these actors sort of discovered, oh, I can do sit acting. But I was used to long form, like audiobooks, where we always sit. So people always, and I'm cross-legged right now, and I can use my diaphragm, and I can get all that, this core strength that you use, and people used to put that down, and now it's weird how things like a pandemic can make you realize, oh, there's a way to do that, and I was not familiar with anime at all. I learned all of this through working on it, and you had to go to like an underground video store to find anime. So when I first did Pokemon, I was like, oh, that's that anime thing. We had no idea it was gonna blow up. I'm lucky I got to learn on the job about all this stuff. My geekdom was theater. I was a musical theater dork. So that, I understand fandom from that. One of the fun ones I got to do was Generator Rex for Cartoon Network, and I got to stand next to Mark Hamill for a day and tried not to fangirl, and J.K. Simmons was on that show. I mean, it was just a ridiculous cast. And that's the thing, it's like John DiMaggio was on that show, and just seeing like the way he would improv. And again, this is all stuff that I've done, but just seeing a master do it, you're like, okay, let me just try to remember this next time I'm working. Let me just channel whatever I learned from these amazing actors. Well, I wouldn't be good at it, but I would want to be Ursula from The Little Mermaid. I mean, my God, what a juicy, fun villain to play.
It's a talent that I always have possessed.
If I could make that my own and play with it, ooh, that would be fun. It's a good question. Especially when you're dubbing. With dubbing anime and video games, sometimes you get free reign, and sometimes you work with the director and find the voice. Sometimes they do want it similar to the original Japanese voice or a Korean voice or wherever the origin of this project is. Even for the auditions, there'll be a voice sample of the original voice because they want to match the tone. And in certain anime genres, like the way they do little boy voices overseas is very different than the way Americans like to hear little boy voices. We put a lot more rasp into it. Theirs is a lot more clear tone. So sometimes when you're auditioning, you're like, ooh, how close do I want this to the original, or do I Americanize it? And again, it's just an audience's ear. So, sometimes you'll do two different versions for an audition. You're like, okay, hopefully one of these is what will resonate with them. It's weird. I mean, it's a different world of this acting industry that a lot of people just don't know, and they're learning about a lot more now. Just the Bulbasaur, but there's there's the regular Bulbasaur, there's the silver, there's the flock, there's the diamond. I can't hold this finger up without doing that. That's terrible. And then there's the two big ones. So there's 6 different Bulbasaurs. And then the Biscuit Hunter's coming out hopefully soon. So I'll have my second pop to sign, which is so cool. I work with some organizations that donate pops to kids in hospitals, and there's just a joy that comes with them. The kids and adults react to them in a way that is pretty unique. Yeah, no, I mean, what you guys have done because a lot of the animation translates so well into the toys, it works for those shows. I mean, but again, we really tapped into something. Well done, Funko.
Now that's a fun chat, but there's more. Check out these other interviews and more fun stuff on Funko Fun TV.